Welcome back, and in this video we will take a look at how to code the Golang backend for the password game, which seems to be all the rage right now. And before we get into how we coded it, let's take a look at the actual game to get an idea on how it works and how we can recreate it. So this is the password game which I've been talking about. So there's a nice little text box here where you can enter your password. So let's start off by entering something simple. Let's just try A, B. And now, once I've typed in these two characters, you can see a red color message appearing. It tells us that the password which we're going to be entering should be at least 5 characters long. And as you can see, the password we've entered is just 2 characters. So in order to satisfy this rule, we're going to have to add 3 more characters. So let's just add C, D, E. Okay, so now we've satisfied the first rule. As you can see, it turns green. And rule 2 is revealed to us. And rule 2 happens to be that our password must include a number. So in order to satisfy the second rule, I'm going to add 1 here. So as you can see, password rule 1 has been satisfied by the password and rule 2 has been satisfied by the password. And now rule 3 is revealed to us. And right now it says that we have to add an uppercase letter. So let's just add capital A. Now we've managed to satisfy 3 rules with this password, and we're getting close to the finish. Now rule 4 has been revealed to us. It asks us to add a special character. I'm going to add the dollar sign. And again, something interesting happens right now. Rule 5 tells us that the digits in the number should add up to 25. And currently, they only add up to 1 because 1 happens to be the only number here. So let's just add a couple of 5s and then a 4 so that they all add up to 25. And so on and so on. Rule 6 tells us that we must add, it must have a month of the year in it. Uh, we can either add May in all uh, small letters or May with all capital letters. That also works. And if you add May with a capital letter, you're also able to satisfy the next condition, which is that it must include a Roman numeral. Capital M happens to be a Roman numeral. And that's how you play the game. After each time you enter and satisfy a rule, a more uh, constructive a constrictive rule appears, and you also have to satisfy that. And if I'm not mistaken, there are about 35 rules like this which you have to satisfy. And um, the goal of the game is to come up with a password which satisfies all 35 of those conditions with the least number of characters. The number you're seeing here, in this case, which is 16, it's basically the number of characters are present in our password. So the goal of the game is to satisfy all these conditions with the least number of characters as possible. Let's take a look at the rules. Yeah, so here, these are the rules of the password game. As you can see, there are 35 rules. 35, okay, there are 40 rules, I'm sorry. And some of these rules can be implemented in the backend, and a few of them have to be implemented using front-end logic. So I've taken a subset of these rules to be implemented. Uh, let's go back to the game for a quick second. As you can see, we've managed to satisfy the first 7 rules, and we're yet to satisfy the 8th rule. And one of the rules happens to be that the password must include a special character. That is rule number 4. Let's see what happens when we violate that rule. So I'm going to remove the dollar sign. As you can see, uh, rule 4, uh, we were breaking rule 4. So the game makes sure that the password which you're entering right now is able to satisfy all the rules up until this point. And here, rule 4 is getting violated. So we also have to keep this in mind when we're going to recreate this game. Let's move on and take a look at the actual code. So, okay, so this is the code for this game. Okay, so firstly, we have to import the necessary libraries for this project. One good thing about Golang and the extensions for Golang in VS Code is that you don't have to manually sit and import everything you need. As in when you type out your code, if you have the right extensions, uh, VS Code will just add all those libraries in here for you. So that's something which is very nice and saves time. The next step is to code all the rules. So in order to do that, uh, we just take the rules from rules.txt and then convert it into actual Golang code. Um, Also, keep in mind one thing right now. As you will see, all the rules have the same function signature and the return type. They all take in a string as an input and then they return a boolean as the output. Keep this in mind. I'll come back to this a bit later. Also, another interesting thing about this is we have to um, uh, make sure that the wordle of the day is present in the password. So in order to do that, I had to use this API, which is present on GitHub. So if you use this, you'll be able to retrieve the wordle of the day, and that's something which is very handy for this project. I thought I should mention it right now. Okay, so once you've coded all the rules, it's time to put them together and then implement the logic which we just saw in the website. So in order to do that, we use function pointers. One good thing about having the same function signature and the return type for all the functions is that we're able to have function pointers and we can check whether the rules are being satisfied in an iterative manner. So that's one of the reasons why I had to ensure that all the functions have the same signature. That is, they all take in a string and then return a boolean. So that's something interesting, and that's one thing which we're exploiting here. Uh, and Yeah, as per the official game, you have you have to give them a responses for success and failure. So if you're able to satisfy all the conditions up until now, you have to give them a positive success message, a positive success reply, sorry. And if you're not able to satisfy all those conditions up until now, you have to give them an error message saying that you're violating this rule. So that's why we have success responses and failure responses, and we just check through them iteratively. And here you have the code to actually handle incoming requests. So we basically pass the request body, find out the password and the rule number, and then we check for it, and then we return a success or failure status. Let's look at the driver code. So these are I've commented out all these lines, and I've basically used these lines to do a sanity check as and when I'm creating all these rules and make sure that nothing's gone absolutely wrong. And then what you do is you just handle requests coming to this endpoint, and then you make the server listen for requests at port number 8080. So yeah, that's how the code works. Now, once we've written the code, we need a way to make sure that it actually works well, and we need an API testing tool to send requests to the server. And I've made use of Postman for this, and I've also uh, made a few collections to test the working of this code. We'll get back to that in a minute. Before that, let's just run this code and then see how this works. Since it's Golang code, you give go, run, and then the name of the file. In this case, it's main.go. My file is called main.go. So I'm gonna run that. I'm gonna make this bigger. Yeah, let's allow that. Yeah, so now we get a message saying that it's running on port 8080. That's good. Now we're going to move to Postman, and then we're going to send request to the server which is running. As you can see, I'm querying this endpoint, and I've written out a bunch of test cases, different test cases for uh, to cover different possibilities. I've also included all this in the repository, so you can check that out if you like. I'll give a link to it in the description below. Okay, so let's just send a request. So here, what does this mean? Here we're trying to the password which we've typed in, or the password which we're gonna send to the server is gonna be 1234, and then the rule which we're trying to satisfy is rule number one. So let's just see what happens once we send this request. Okay, so rule number one, as we saw from the website, let me just go back there. Rule one is that it must have at least 5 characters, whereas the password which we're sending here has only 4 characters. So not getting a success message, it in fact tells us that you need to have 5 characters and that this password is not valid. And likewise, we've got a bunch of different test cases. Again, here, what we're trying to do is uh, we're sending a password which is 12345A, and we're trying to satisfy rule number one. Let's just see what happens, and then I'll tell you how it works. So yeah, as you can see, this password is able to satisfy the first 3 rules. So what are the first 3 rules? that the password must have at least 5 characters. We've got that. The password must include a number. We've also got that. And that the password must include an uppercase letter. So with one single string, we're able to satisfy these 3 conditions. The next condition which we should satisfy is rule number 4, which is up here. Rule number 4 says that we must have a special character in the password. So clearly this does not have a special character, and the server basically tells us that, hey, in your password, you need to have a special character to satisfy rule number 4. So what do we do next? We just go ahead and then we add a special character, $sign here, and then we're gonna send this to the server again. Cool. So right now we're able to satisfy the first 4 rules. Now rule 5 is revealed to us. Rule 5 happens to be that the digits must add up to 25. So on and so forth. We've got a bunch of different test cases to make sure that everything works fine. And these are all passing baseline test cases. We've also got test cases to which fail, and these just tell us that the code is working properly. Um, yeah, so if you want to run this, you just basically clone the repository. You'll get access to all these Postman collections. You'll also get the uh, rules.txt and then main.go file, and then you can run it for yourself and then see how it works. I've added, like I've been saying, I've added the link to the GitHub repository and the official game in the description below. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos.